Last night got down to about 50 degrees, so, and the moon phase is high, so it's kind of one of those deals where fish are probably already up moving around, doing their thing. Like I said, this time of year a lot of big bass get caught. A lot of guys are out hunting for those big fish,
Just saw a big bass jump out there. That's awesome.
They're going to be active this morning. This lake is full of largemouth, sand bass, very large catfish. So it's a good chance we'll catch some, hopefully. Started fishing as a kid. My family grew up fishing, so I got into it pretty early on in life. And as far as competitive fishing, I really didn't do much of that till about 5 years ago when I bought my first kayak and kind of got interested in, getting out and doing some more fishing, and then found out that there was a pretty good size competitive kayak fishing group in Oklahoma. And I've been kind of hooked ever since. I'm the captain of operations for the OSU Tulsa Police Department. I've been employed by OSU Stillwater for the last 14 years. I was recently promoted last year to that position in Tulsa. I probably fish 4 days a week. I usually fish a couple jackpot tournaments on Tuesday night, sometime Thursday. And then I'm fishing all weekend, Saturday and Sunday. I'll be somewhere fishing, either on a pond, in the kayak, or something. So typically people think that when you fish this much, you're always catching fish, and that's not always the case. People watch a lot of YouTube videos and stuff they see on TV and watch the pros always catching fish on TV. But I always tell people, those guys, they put 12 hours a day, 7 days a week into their sport, and they learn where the fish are, and they have the high-end technology on their boats to find them. But you take an average fisherman who goes out maybe once every other weekend or something, and he gets frustrated because he can't catch fish, and I just tell him, it's not because you're not a good angler, it's just because you don't put enough time in. I think the thing that steers me away from the bass boats right now is just the overall cost of maintenance on a bass boat as opposed to a kayak or a two-man boat. There's very little maintenance involved in a kayak, especially when it's all human powered. As long as I'm able, the kayak's able, and there's no holes in it, we can get on the water. Whereas if your boat breaks down and it costs you $3,000 to fix it and you don't have $3,000, your boat's just sitting in your driveway waiting to get fixed and you can't use it. And I tell people I can go anywhere a bass boat can go. It just may take me a little bit longer to get there, but once I'm there, I can easily actually get in places the bass boat can't. Fish on. All right. Couldn't have timed that much better. I know the owner of the Oklahoma City Kayak Store as well as the Tulsa Kayak Store. And when I first met him 4 or 5 years ago, his inventory was full. I mean, he was hard pressed to sell, 3 kayaks a month. And once COVID hit and the economy basically shut down and people were staying home and they had to find things to do to occupy their time, he sold out in a couple months, his entire inventory at both his stores. I tell people that's probably the best place to learn to fish is in a pond, because you don't have to worry about trying to figure out where the fish are, because typically you can get to every side of the pond. And I give them every opportunity to catch a fish, and I tell them if you don't catch one, you got to walk. And of course they always ask me, have you ever not caught a fish? I said, not in my pond. I know where they're at. I can always catch one in the pond. A lot different than a lake. You know, the lake's a lot bigger and you got to figure out where they're at and what they're doing. And yes, I have made a few people walk home, or at least back to the gate. I don't make them walk home. There's a fish right there. He must have followed my bait back in earlier. Huh. If you're wanting to get into kayaking and you don't know where to go, please look up the Oklahoma Kayak Anglers on their webpage as well as on Facebook. There's a lot of information out there on how to get started. If there's not, then you can always ask the question or post it on Facebook, and we're very eager to answer all questions on social media. So I'm gonna keep fishing, guys. I'm looking to catch a big fish today, and if not, a small one will work too.